they're just they're openly leaning into like mania. And I think it's genuine. I'm not even kidding. I think Zohran is straight up breaking the brains of a lot of people. The more desperate these guys have become, the more insane they have become. Do you think anyone that could get the same kind of momentum as Zohran in the 2026 midterms? Yes, there are some, and we shall see. Of course, part of the reason why this is stupid and Americans are purposefully propagandized against and are kept stupid is because of the likes of dip like Elon Musk, who is literally using his platform that he purchased to basically manipulate people, to make them crazier. And we're going to talk about that as well. The New York City ballot form is a scam. He says no ID is required. Other mayoral candidates appear twice. Cuomo's lame is last in the bottom right. One of the most insane things I've ever seen. It's like, remember when remember how I told you that Republicans, by and large, have this very interesting and very sinister method of looking at something that is a normal part of the process, knowing full well that the average American is uninitiated with this normal part of the process, and then describing it in this sinister way, describing this in this scary, creepy way, right? Example I always use is like, you could do that with anything. You could talk about surgery, for example. Like, Republicans will be like, well, transgender surgery is butchery. You're just like chopping up people's body parts. Well, technically, that's open heart surgery as well. If you want to describe it in such gruesome terms, you could. And the same thing happens here. This is a normal ballot in the state of New York, in the citywide ballot. As a matter of fact, Donald Trump, I believe, was also endorsed by two separate parties. He was on the conservative line and the Republican Party ticket. And yet, for people outside of New York, they don't know that, right? So Elon Musk is actually taking advantage of the fact that many people don't know, and maybe he's too stupid to know, right? And of course, New York City has fusion voting, so candidates can run with multiple party lines. This is a 2024 sample ballot from Rochester. Both Harris and Trump appeared twice because they had two ballot lines. Basic New York politics here, but anything can be a conspiracy if you want it to be, says David Weigel. Now, of course, David Weigel's correction has only gotten 96 likes because he's on the platform owned by the idiotic billionaire Elon Musk. Elon Musk's idiotic statement, casting a cloud of doubt over the fucking accuracy of the elections that are taking place in New York, which is, by the way, literal electioneering. This is supposed to be illegal. In a competent democracy with a competent governance, Elon would go to prison for this, or at least he would be punished for this. This is a way to freak people out, okay? And yet Elon Musk, because he is a billionaire and endlessly powerful and endlessly stupid, can just bot his own shit into oblivion, have this moronic thing get in front of 13 million eyeballs on his platform and try to engage in electioneering at the very last second. I don't know how we fight back against this stuff. I don't know how we fight back against this stuff in the absence of good governance. There has to be rules around this sort of thing, okay? This is literal election interference. I know that it's great that we focus on the positives and we focus on Zohran and what he means for so many people and how he's been able to capture the attention of at least 100,000 door knockers. It's an incredible, incredible campaign, a real underdog story. And we were there. We were there at the ground floor. This community was there at the ground floor, and awesome. But make no mistake, the reason why I will never be comfortable until it's done is because I understand the unimaginable faucet of misinformation against this campaign, the Islamophobia that is dialed up to 11 against this campaign, with billionaires and millionaires and numerous different corporate interests getting together and actively trying to propagandize against this dude who clearly has the motion, he clearly has the momentum, he clearly has the charisma. And the reason for why they want to do that is because they don't want you to dream. They don't want you to have the audacity of hope, a hope for better things and the possibility of better things, a hope for a better vision for a future. They do not want you to feel that way. They want you angry. They want you divided. They want you to hate one another. They want you to constantly argue amongst yourselves and feel angry about random irrelevant things rather than those who are actually designing this society. And Elon Musk is one of the most visible aspects of this corrupt billionaire structure that exists, okay? Because what has Zohran advanced, if not modest change in the direction, just offering a crumb back to the working poor, offering something that billionaires find to be devastating, of course, which is to dream, to have confidence once again in democracy, in the democratic process, to have confidence once again in your fellow man, that they will go out and they will be able to achieve incremental change. They don't want that. Capital owners do not want that at all, and they will fight back tooth and nail, as we have seen in this campaign. Some of you will say Zohran is not a radical. He's actually dropped all of his associations. But even then, even with the moderation that he has presented, even then, that is seemingly a bridge too far for capital owners in this city and capital owners broadly across the country. And that's precisely the reason why you see the likes of Ted Cruz now supporting Andrew Cuomo, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Ted Cruz. Virtually every Republican in the country is either demanding that Zohran Mamdani get deported, demanding that he get denaturalized, or demanding that at the very least you vote against him. Think about that. These people do not want even a shred of hope. They don't want you to have a speck of hope. They don't want you to recognize that united through the process of collective action or through the process of voting, that you can make changes, incremental changes, modest changes that you are deserving of. They don't want you to have that. And they're terrified. They're terrified of even modest social democracy. How can you look at this and see it as anything but the uniparty, the rot, the institutional rot that exists in American politics? That is the reason why so many people refuse to get up from the couch and go out and vote. Yeah, here is a sitting representative, Andy Ogles, representing Tennessee's 5th congressional district, saying, "Wake up, New York," 18 hours ago, showing images of 9/11. Dennis M. Hogan in response says, "I grew up on Staten Island, lost friends and neighbors on 9/11, lost my dad to a 9/11 related cancer after he spent months working at Ground Zero. It's beyond disrespectful for any congressman to be posting this, let alone one from Tennessee. God Almighty." The way that these people have basically tried to actively weaponize 9/11 against a Muslim mayoral candidate that is objectively popular, I cannot believe it. It is so transparent. Now you got the Andrew Cuomo's of the world doing the same thing, but their association can't be as direct because they still have to abide by some semblance of civility. So he will go on a radio show where the radio show host says Zohran would cheer on a 9/11, and he'll agree, Andrew Cuomo, as he did with the Sid Rosenberg show, or he'll spend millions of dollars, all the PACs that are defending him, all the real estate PACs that are defending him, Michael Bloomberg, the Tisch family, Bill A. Packman, numerous others will try to tie Zohran Mamdani back to 9/11 by literally using someone like myself, another American citizen, to say, oh, he actually loves 9/11. Look, he did a stream when he was in a primary, a very crowded field, when he was at 5%. He did a stream with Hassan Piker, a person like myself that obviously a lot of my haters will look to that and go, oh yeah, you're such a toxic figure. What I said in 2019 about 9/11 was obviously a reflection on a concept that there's academic consensus over, blowback, right? And I talked about in 2019 extensively how I did no favors to myself, something that I even apologized for. And yet they have basically tried to recirculate this for only one reason, okay? And that is because they want to associate Zohran Mamdani with 9/11. That's it. He's Muslim. They want to say he wants to do 9/11. They want to say he cheers on 9/11. And we don't need to speculate on this because Andrew Cuomo did unironically agree as recently as 2 weeks ago on the Sid Rosenberg show that Zohran Mamdani would cheer on another 9/11. And yet there was very little commotion or controversy surrounding this. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Honestly, it's so crazy that your 821 takes are coming back in this way, considering that even this community, 821 was falling off the past couple of years. It's not back. It's not back at all. They're trying to make this a real thing, but I don't think voters necessarily care about that. Not even a little bit. I think the ones who do care about that kind of stuff already hated Zohran Mamdani. And they hated him because he's Muslim, or they hated him because he's an anti-Zionist. That's it. Oh yeah, this was another... If you want to understand the mindset of Andrew Cuomo and the racism of Andrew Cuomo, here it is. Talking to Hasanabi head over at MSNBC, Eugene Daniels.
Give you a chance to correct the record if you didn't mean to say, but it sounded like you said diversity can also be a weakness. What did you mean by that?
Diversity can be a weakness if you have antipathy among groups, Jonathan. If you have racism. Or
give you a chance to correct the record if you didn't mean to say, but it sounded like you said diversity can also be a weakness. What did you mean by that?
Diversity can be a weakness.
He's trying to say that if you import the third world, this is like the long way of the famous Elon Musk quote. Elon Musk, remember, famously looked at a white nationalist on Twitter who said, oh, Jews imported the third world, and now the third world hates Jews. You did this to yourselves. This is the other version of that, where he's saying, oh, well, antipathy amongst marginalized communities can create weakness. What he's trying to say is the Muslims hate the Jews, and that creates weakness. He's trying to say that. I'm just giving you the example. Obviously, he can't get away with openly saying, like, diversity is a weakness for us as a prominent supposed establishment Democrat here, which is what he's trying to run as. But what is really funny about this is he goes, diversity can be a weakness if you have antipathy among groups, Jonathan. And Eugene Daniels responds with, I'm Eugene.
Jonathan, if you have racism.
Yeah, he proved it. We shall see. But yeah, closing your diversity is weakness argument by confusing the two black hosts is truly exceptional work. But you should expect that from Andrew Cuomo. In any case, there's some funny moments from the campaign trail, which we're going to get to. But here, I wanted to show you this as well. Representative Andy Ogle says, this is a photo of Mamdani's home country, Uganda. This is what the New York will look like after he destroyed it. Deport him now. Which, by the way, 2 hours ago, nice little 2K likes on that. I cannot believe how insanely racist he got. Okay? I cannot believe it, dude. This is beyond the pale, okay? This is utterly beyond the pale. I mean, even this, an actual communist jihadist, a literal Karl Marx quoting America-hating jihadist. This is some straightforward David Duke shit, and this is precisely the reason why I was saying, if left unrestrained, the permissibility of Islamophobia is going to make these motherfuckers go crazy. And that's where we're at, Democrats. Wake up. I know many Democrats in positions of power don't give a shit about this because they care more about cashing Israeli checks more than they do about like creating some sense of cohesion as a unit in this country. But god damn, dude, what do you think will happen? And we're watching this this fissure implode on the right anyway. These guys for the longest time have said that diversity is a weakness, diversity is bad. And many conservative Jewish broadcasters have played along with this idea. The great replacement is here. It's happening. And now they're experiencing the backlash of it, whether it be the conservative Indian commentators like Dinesh D'Souza going, where did all this racism come from? I don't know, have you looked around? Or whether it be all of the institutional donors of the Republican Party of Jewish background, conservative Jews, going, what is happening with the Heritage Foundation? Why are they promoting Pat Buchanan? Why are they promoting Nick Fuentes? Why are they promoting so many anti-Semites? Like, because you're not a part of the team, dipshit. You never were. You're an idiot. You're okay? Good luck. All of this kind of bigotry it plays a formative role in exploding bigotry of every sort, because people ask the same question where they go, okay, Randy Fine gets to talk about Zohran Mamdani or Ilhan Omar in this way. So why can't we say that about Jews then? Why can't we say that about Randy Fine then? That's a question that many Americans have asked themselves. Okay? And what is the expectation? What is the expectation? Sorry, Trump can hate all he wants. I'm not going anywhere, says Ilhan Omar. And Randy Fine says, my goal is to not give you a choice. If an American congressperson can speak like this about another Muslim hijabi congressperson, why is it that like people can't say that about Jewish people? Like, why do you think you will be protected from the exact same level of open bigotry and intolerance? It's a twofer because it's, you know, that's the other thing. It's disgusting. It's vile. And for the record, this is one of the things that I will forever say, no matter what people believe, I still think Americans by and large do not like open bigotry of this sort. Americans are far more tolerant of diversity than other countries. I know it sounds like an insane moment for me to say this, but I think Americans are still by and large, quote unquote, woke, even when it comes to trans issues. Okay? Because the very same Americans that say, oh, transgender athletes are trying to win high school athletic competitions. And on that issue, there's like 80% support to like abolish transgender athletes in general. When asked whether trans people are disproportionately discriminated against, will still turn around and by 60%, sometimes 70% say, yeah, that's right. It is a little, isn't it? So the very same people that are like, you know, promoting transphobia will then still turn around and go, yeah, transphobia is pretty up, I think. I swear to God, it is when you get to a point of like open, loud, and proud bigotry, the average American goes, that's not for me. Okay? Obviously, the threshold of bigotry is different for different marginalized communities. Obviously, for Muslims, it's like way, way out there. But I do think that you're talking about cities, not rural America. They don't see colored people every day. No. Even in the most rural fucking ass bum place, there is a reason why the Klan wore robes, okay? I don't think you guys understand this concept. There is a level of permissible bigotry. This is a Hasanabi truism, okay? There is by the way, he dropped the colored in there. I read it. Sorry. Anyway, there is a level, there's a threshold of bigotry, okay? There's a reason why no sitting congressperson, for example, can openly can openly say like the N-word, for example. That's why they have to mask it with terms like thug. And even then, that's like kind of not permissible at this stage. So there'll be microaggressions like, oh, this black person is articulate, stuff like that. The reason for why is because if you just hit the maximalist position, many Americans look at that and go, oh, okay, that's too much for me. You have to mask it with euphemisms, right? Low IQ is another one that the Trump administration is slamming quite a bit, if you noticed, right? It's not about like the rural urban divide, which exists for sure in the way that people express their politics. But the reason for why dog whistles have to exist is because just blaring it out with a bullhorn oftentimes makes people feel uncomfortable. Okay? It makes people uncomfortable about the types of ideas that they're on board with. That's precisely the reason why a lot of Americans that might have like straightforward neo-Nazi style politics still hate the term Nazi. They hate it. They've been programmed into hating this term. There's a reason why prominent neo-Nazis can't openly say they're neo-Nazis or openly say that they're fascists, because Americans look at that and go, ugh, I was with you when you were talking about, you know, white people being replaced, but then when you're starting to talk about like the genetic purity and the white superiority all of a sudden, and you say you're a Nazi, I'm not there with you, right? Of course, the necessity for euphemisms means that that there is a permission structure that can expand or contract, okay? And the more you fling around bigotry of all different sorts, the more people feel a sense of comfort saying the quiet part out loud. So just remember, it works in both directions, okay? It does work in both directions, which is why I have been so aggressive and so angry about the ways in which people have been so openly and so transparently bigoted towards Muslims, especially highlighted in the aftermath of these two different interests converging. A popular Muslim socialist candidate in the finance capital of America, but also with Israel falling off the map in terms of popularity, where very clearly They can't win back support for Israel, but what they can do is identify the enemies of Israel and present the enemies of Israel as this scary, intolerant, barbaric hordes of Muslims that are trying to destroy Western society from within. And they've seen great success with this, and that's the reason why you're seeing these sorts of attitudes heighten. It's Donald Trump also has become increasingly manic as the end of this campaign nears. You see more and more insanity from the people who weren't paying close attention. If you noticed, any Jewish person that votes for Zohran Mamdani, a proven self-professed Jew hater, is a stupid person. Now, obviously, you're saying 11 likes, he fell off, but this is like an immediate screen grab. Okay, calm down. It is one of the most insane things I've seen. Okay, Deborah Messing is not an outlier of this sort. There are straight up people that are openly showcasing their mental deterioration on the timeline, folks. It is one of the most insane things I've ever seen. People are so shameless in the absence of any sort of social mechanism, in the absence of people saying, hey man, maybe you shouldn't say that. You should think before you post. In this day and age where that kind of mental illness is rewarded, okay? In the absence of that kind of like social stigma, this kind of like social pushback, you're seeing more and more people openly showcase their mental illness on the timeline. One of the people that I think clocked this from afar is Mike Isaac. I talked about this on the Majority Report, okay? Mike Isaac, a New York Times tech reporter, friend of the show, Mike Isaac, tweeted something about New York Post last night. He's just watching this stuff unfold from afar. And as someone in San Francisco that's watching this stuff unfold from afar, he said, as a California resident experiencing the Post Twitter coverage of this race over the past 6 months, it has been like watching a social media manager slowly descend into mania. Okay? He said this yesterday after the New York Post came out with their incredible reporting. Okay? A real banger. Another banger. This is sure to do it. How Zohran Mamdani's aloof wife, Rama Dawaji, quietly steered his campaign from behind the scenes. What are we doing? They're openly leaning into like mania. And I think it's genuine. I'm not even kidding. I think Zohran is straight up breaking the brains of a lot of people who were obviously receptive to having their minds break. That's some weak shit, dog. Guys, you don't understand. What I'm talking about is not necessarily that this is a successful line of attack. What I'm talking about is the fact that the New York Post thinks this is a successful line of attack. That is where the insanity comes from. Do you not understand? The more desperate these guys have become, the more insane they have become. And the more open they are about their insanity, the more they lean into QAnon-style thinking. Do you not understand? Like the very fact that Michael Bloomberg spent $3.5 million posterizing your boy, okay, as though I was like responsible for 9/11 or some shit in the last week leading up to this election is insanity. $3.5 million from Michael Bloomberg on that ad slot that runs more than like Capital One ads on television. An ad slot that is not even determined to be successful. An ad slot that is just so insane because it makes people go, who the is this guy? Zohran is doing to people's minds today what Obama did to them in 2008. Reactionaries can't help themselves. Yeah. This is a funny take on the New York Post piece from Jessica Burbank. It says, they saw one of the most successful campaigns in history and thought a woman must have done this. Very woke. Thank you, New York Post. On the one hand, I think it's funny. And I want to say, oh, it's great that these guys have nothing. So they're just like flinging shit, okay? They're just flinging the wall, see what sticks. But also on the other hand, the very fact that this is like even remotely successful in actually getting the attention of like average American voters is terrifying, okay? It's terrifying to me because you have a completely unblemished track record for a young, dynamic guy who ran on an affordability message and hammered that in and was very charismatic, very personable, a person that everyone has been waiting for, right? A person that, like, everyone from New York City all the way to California, where liberal voters are like, that's the guy, that's what we needed. And yet there are still going to be tens of thousands of people that were duped and manipulated into voting against him. That is terrifying. That means people are infinitely more malleable. Okay? That still means that we have a long way ahead. We have our work cut out for ourselves. Have you been asked for comment by any media outlets? And if so, have you intentionally held back to keep from feeding the bullshit? No. I think a lot of the very same media outlets that have written all these like glamorous profile pieces of myself have also been very cognizant of who and whose interest they serve. So they're just in a holding pattern at this point, from what I've seen, where they kind of moved in the direction of offering decent coverage to Zohran Mamdani, as opposed to like the unimaginably antagonistic coverage that they showed to Zohran Mamdani in the primaries. And we shall see. But it seems there's people reporting that there's bomb threats.
And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
I don't know if he's going to get that question again today, but the general approach the Trump administration has taken to try and intimidate voters, unless we heard him incorrectly, what in the world is he talking about?
He is serving up a Kamala-sized...
What do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? Donald Trump and everybody else on the Republican side are quite literally saying this is the most imminent threat to America, that he is going to do 9/11. There are literally actual congresspersons that are saying he's going to do 9/11, man. What do you mean? These are the very same people, by the way, that turn around and go, oh, if you call out our fascist policies as fascist, that means you're trying to kill us. Okay? It's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. He said he's going to pull funding from New York. Stephen Miller has endorsed Andrew Cuomo now. Another glaringly obvious example of the uniparty attitude against an anti-establishment candidate. And unfortunately, you're seeing this mania come from Wall Street Journal op-eds too. Yeah, Zohran Mamdani's victory will imperil Jews and embolden totalitarians everywhere in the world. If New York falls, the entire free world may again totter on its foundations, writes BHL, Bernard Henry Levy. Okay? And of course, you know, no disrespect to the French, I think he is. But of course, this is a guy who I think, if I'm thinking of the same guy, this is a literal file, okay? The guy who wrote this Wall Street Journal op-ed is a straight up file, okay? Yeah. Oh, look at the reply. Never mind. Did Levy refer to a 13-year-old child as a youthful error or not? That's because in many ways, reactions differed little. There was Whoopi Goldberg, the American actress, claiming to find some difference between Mr. Polanski did and what she called. And there was Bernard Henry Levy, the French celebrity intellectual, allowing as how Mr. Polanski, 43 at the time, perhaps had committed a youthful error. 43. 13-year-old, 43-year-old Roman Polanski, 13-year-old, and the guy who wrote that piece on Zohran Mamdani said that it was a youthful error. Anyway, here's Stephen Miller endorsing.
As far as New York is concerned, as you talked about, as we've said, unfortunately, the anti-Mamdani vote is being split between Cuomo and Sliwa. And President Trump tonight put out a statement being clear that if you vote for Sliwa, who's polling at about a third of where Cuomo is, you're just throwing your vote away. The anti-Mamdani vote, which is really the pro-New York City vote, the pro-America vote, needs to unite behind the leading candidate, and that's Andrew Cuomo. As far as New York is concerned, as you talked about, as we've said, unfortunately, the anti-Mamdani vote is being split between Cuomo and Sliwa. And President Trump tonight...
If there is no other reason, and you don't actually need another reason other than the good policies that Mamdani's platform represents, but if you were looking for any other reason, these are some of the worst heads that will suffer Okay? These are some of the worst that are already losing their minds. Okay? Mask off, neo-Nazis. They will be crying delicious and salty tears if, inshallah, Zohran Mamdani wins the mayoral race. And he deserves to. Okay? He has run a hell of a campaign. And you all, many of you played a role in this. Many of you knocked on doors. Many of you canvassed. Many of you spread the word, got your immediate family members to be on board, okay? There will be far-reaching positive consequences of this, okay?